the way I got into the work I currently do is a very unusual. So in my undergraduate studies, I actually studied Indo-European historical linguistics, which is the study of how the ancestor of all Indo-European languages sounded like, 6 to 8,000 years ago. And it's a really fascinating field. Like, based on studies of language, people for the first time got the idea that maybe Greek and Latin and Sanskrit go back to the same common ancestor that no longer exists, right? So, and that the idea of evolution got born basically that way. So in the 19th and 20th century, this field was really well developed, and all linguistics was basically Indo-European historical linguistics, and all the smartest people worked on this problem because they showed that you can reverse engineer how language sounded like a long time ago, because sounds of language basically change in a regular fashion. What does that mean? If a sound like E changes into in a language, it'll change in every single word, right? And you can then, you could take a look at a bunch of languages that are related, like Greek and English and Sanskrit and Latin and Old Irish, and you can basically reverse engineer how the proto-language sounded. And so I was really fascinated by that, and I was studying Sanskrit and Greek and Hittite, which is an Anatolian language that no longer is spoken. And but the point is, I was not doing machine learning as an undergraduate student, and even part of my PhD. And to this day, I publish and write about Proto-Indo-European historical linguistics. But the idea is that I got insights and I got background that is very unique, right? So no other student, or very few other students, learn about this aspect of language or this aspect of linguistics. So as I was going into machine learning, AI, and maybe neuroscience of language, I had this really valuable background, which is basically humanities, would count as humanities, right? And really, which really helped me to kind of have insights that probably other people didn't have. And so I agree. I totally agree. I think it is so important to have diverse backgrounds, and that's why I also love living in a college environment, or a residential college environment, because you don't just hang out with people of your own major, but you talk to at a dinner, you talk to biologist or a geologist, or whoever is there, mathematician, and you get this really interesting backgrounds and different perspectives. And humanities is really interesting because if I really like the kind of flavor of this podcast, which is kind of STEM plus humanities and arts, and it's really interesting because I think if humanities are now the most relevant ever, right? So if there's a time in history where the study of the human is important, it's now, because we're facing this artificial intelligence, or however you want to call it, and it's really important that we have this reflection about the human, and how we're different and how we're similar. So we're building models in our lab that learn language more like humans do. But recent advances in AI also go in the other direction, right? So there are also models that are starting to diverge from humans. For example, recent large language models like transformers, they memorize way more. They're making steps, or they're doing things that humans would not do. And one of the crucial thing is, I think currently, is to understand that. So to understand where the neural nets are similar to humans, and where they are diverging from humans. And you can approach this question from various perspectives, right? One is from obviously from machine learning perspective, and that's important. That's what we do in the lab as well. But there's also a humanities perspective, because you have to know what human is and what did they do. And so I think if there was ever time when humanities were super relevant. I think it's now.